staff meeting?
What?
Did we talk about, the other day we were talking about having students in the staff
Ah,
meeting
yes.
and that whole issue.
Some students representing you and go and be with the staff and they discuss things. I think that can be arranged. We talked about it with Mrs. Simmons and others. It'll come about, I'm sure. That's right. Anyhow, we'll talk about it. Is there anything else?
Christy, could we talk about love?
When you talk about love. Anything else?
Isolation.
Isolation. Good Lord. Anything else?
Self-deception.
Self-deception. Love, isolation, self-deception, and you suggested some students who will represent the whole body of students and be at the staff meeting. I think that can be, you can talk it over with the staff and see what you can do.
And can we talk about two different...
The opposite.
Wait, yeah.
C'est ça, mon capitaine.
The opposite.
Love, self-deception, isolation, and the conflict between the opposites. N'est-ce pas? Could we discuss something first? Perhaps all this would be included in that, with what we were talking about at lunchtime, between two mouthfuls, which is not the right occasion, with Dr. Bohm, about purity of order.
Of order.
Order. Complete order. The absolute order, whether it exists in the universe, and it obviously doesn't exist in the human beings, and whether to be aware of this astonishing order and its purity and its depth in the universe, whether it is at all possible to observe that order without, when one is totally in disorder. That's one of the points we were talking about yesterday, but I thought you would like to hear about it too. You don't mind? You would like to hear about it? I will go into the other questions later. When one observes visually the whole universe, that is the stars and the planets and the galaxy, and the order of the tide, the rising of the moon, setting, everything so astonishingly orderly. Have you noticed it? And are we aware of that extraordinary absolute order of purity? Is it possible to be aware when one's own mind is so confused? You understand the question? How is it possible to bring about that order within oneself and then both inwardly and outwardly see the purity of order, the absolute order? You understand? One cannot observe this order in the universe if one is not in oneself completely and absolutely orderly. One may attribute order to the universe because you see the moon rising, setting, the tide going in and out, the rising of the sun, setting of the sun. That's visual and perhaps also an intellectual concept of this order. And is there order in ourselves? And if there is not that absolute order, how can one perceive the external order? Right? You're getting what I'm talking, right? Would that interest you, this question? Because we human beings are so disorderly. Not only outwardly, but also inwardly. All that is happening in the world, the terrorism, the totalitarian states and so on, outwardly you can see it all. And can we equally, with clarity, see how disorderly we are inwardly? If we do not see inwardly the total disorder in which we live, the outward disorder becomes merely visual, intellectual, theoretical. Right? I wonder, you're following this? So, that's one of the things we talked about. Then the other thing was, it might be rather interesting, much more perhaps. Do you remember we talked about the other day thought arising from registration? The origin of thought comes from registration. Registration being accumulation through experience, all kinds of knowledge stored up in the brain. Like a computer, we are programmed by registering every form of experience, every form of incidents and happenings. That registration brings about, or rather emphasizes, the beginning of the self, the me. Is it somewhat clear? I'll make it clear. I'll try rather. I have an incident, a happening, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. Immediately, the brain there is a registration of that on the brain, right? And if it is pleasurable, if it is nice, if it is beautiful, then the registration becomes strong, right? That produces or brings about the emphasis, makes the self, right? You see that? Say, for instance, I had a happy incident yesterday on the walk, and that is registered, and thought then pursues that registration. being pleasant, and one of the factors of the self is the pursuit of pleasure. You see how from registration the self is created. Then the self demands more registration to strengthen itself. Huh? Do you see it? I had pleasant experience yesterday afternoon in the walk. There was a pleasant experience. That's registered. Then thought says, I must pursue that pleasant experience. Then that thought creates the me pursuing that pleasure, which has been registered. Clear? Do you see this? If you don't, I'll explain it 10 different ways. Do you see this? Because it's very important to find this out, because whether it is possible for the brain to register very, very likely everything, even technological knowledge, even linguistic accumulation of words and so on, to register everything, especially in the technological sense, lightly. So the brain is never under a pressure, so that there is no deformation. You know, so make the brain is not deformed. I wonder if this is too difficult.
You say that an experience is registered. Then you said thought creates the me, which pursues that experience. And it doesn't seem to follow from registration that thought creates
Yes,
the me.
quite. Look, there is registration. Then what is the next step? Think it out. What's the next step? There is a pleasant experience which is registered. What takes place as soon as there is registration? Go on. What?
The me interprets that registration in a certain way. The me.
No. What takes place immediately after registration of a pleasant experience? Watch it carefully. You must have a pleasant experience yesterday, or unpleasant experience, right? Some kind of happened. That is registered, right? Then what is the next movement?
Do you label it as a pleasant experience?
Huh?
You label it as a pleasant experience.
Huh?
You label it as
You label that experience. You label it. Which is what? Go into it slowly. You have an experience, you label it, you call it by a name. The name is, go on.
A judgment.
Huh?
The name is a judgment. Oh, it's good or it's bad.
Because
The name is a judgment.
name,
It's bad.
no, little more than that. Go into it slowly.
The name is relating it to what you know from before, the past. It's like you look back into your memory.
Which is what?
Which is
Which is what? Go on. Which is, you go back to memory. You said. Then what? Why do you go on?
Observation stops. I mean, you're relying on memory for seeing and not
The word, the labeling, has also been registered, hasn't it?
comparison.
No, watch it. No, there is an happening, registered. Then you said, name it. The very naming it is the reaction of a previous registration. Right? Right? Then go further. That means what? Previous registration, from which you name.
It's thought and memory, isn't it?
Huh?
Thought and memory.
So go on, investigate it. Don't just thought and memory. Find out what goes on. It's very important for you to learn this, because you may live a totally different kind of life in which there is affection, love, and all the rest of it, not conflict, confusion, disorder. If you really learn about this, I am not telling you and you memorize it, but you yourself discover it. You yourself find out what happens when you register, what goes on, the whole of it. You understand what I mean? You understand? If you learn for yourself, then you'll find out what is necessary to register, and also if you register what is necessary, to register very, very, very lightly. You understand? Not make it heavy. Go on. So there is a registration of a happy incident, you name it. The naming of it is another registration previously. So from that, what goes on?
So depending on what name you've given it, you
Yeah, that's the name. It doesn't matter, good, bad, lovely, beautiful, ugly, evil, any name is a previous registration or previous remembrance.
then you tell yourself you either want more of it or you don't want
So
it.
what takes place? Go.
It strengthens the memory of it. And the registration goes deeper.
What takes place? Are you guessing or actually seeing what is happening? If you're guessing, yes, if you're guessing, if you're merely intellectually saying it must, there's no bad. But if you see what actually takes place, then we'll help each other. Your theory is as good as my theory. So the brain is always operating in registry, right? Right? Oh, come on, right? Registration may have been the past or the present happening, recognized from the past, and so taken to the past. So this process is going on all the time, isn't it? Isn't it? No?
So but the past is the me, isn't it?
I'm coming to that. First, see what takes place. You refuse to see what is going on actually inwardly. The brain, what is the brain, how the brain is acting. Registration of present happening, the recognition of that, which is another form of registration, right? So it is always operating by registering. So when you do that, either that which is pleasurable or that which is not pleasurable, what takes place? You understand my question? When the brain is always operating by registering, and every registration strengthens registration, right? You follow? And every registration is put together as the me, isn't it? No?
I wouldn't agree.
You wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah.
Why? I'm not saying I'm right, you understand? Don't say agree or disagree. Because then let's find out. I may be wrong. Find out. Don't theorize.
Yeah, I'm asking a question now. What, as far as I've understood, the me is something that is working with registration. That the center where registration is connected to. But
Are you saying, sir, through registration, a center is formed?
can be.
Keep it simple. Is that what you're saying?
There could be.
That is so. Watch it. That could be. Watch it, sir. You don't. By registering a happening and calling it pleasurable, you have created a center, haven't you?
By calling it pleasure.
A center of pleasure.
Yeah.
Huh?
Right.
And then, if it is not pleasant, that also forms a center. Right? Follow this carefully. The registration, the naming of it, therefore making a center, always. Right?
But the rest is,
Wait,
yeah.
you do. Go slowly into it. That center is the me. No? Because that center comes about through registration, the naming, and strengthening the pursuit or the avoidance of pleasure or pain.
Why
Right?
is the center called the me? You see,
What?
Why is the center called the me? You see that?
It is center.
Yeah, but why doesn't it remain just the center? That is it.
What?
By calling it the me, you turn
I won't even call it the me yet.
just the center.
I leave it as, you see, I just want to see. It's a center. Right? Huh? See what happens. The brain has formed a center.
I don't understand. Why does it form a center? I don't understand.
Why does it form a center? Yesterday, there was a happy incident. That is registered, right? It is named from a previous registry. There is recognition. So, this constant recognition is a center. Huh?
I don't.
You don't see it?
No.
Like, it seems there's two centers in the brain. The main ones, which are what's good and what's bad. Or what you
So
like and
what
you
is
don't
happening when
like.
it's a good and bad? When the brain is operating by registering good and avoiding pain, or that, what happens?
Comparison.
Huh?
Comparison.
Not comparison. No, what has taken place before comparison?
There's something which is making the judgment.
Which is what?
The me.
No, don't use a me. I want to avoid that word for the moment.
But it is a center.
In the brain there is always, through registration and the naming and all the rest of it, constantly forming a center, surely, from which you are acting, from which there is action.
Well, what's not clear is it's not clear that it is necessary that a name should form a center.
It's not clear the naming or the registration should form a center,
Yeah.
right? Did you hear what Dr. Let's see how we answer that question. It's not clear, Dr. Baum says, how this center is formed. He's asking you, reply. What do you say to it?
Isn't it inevitable that you have a center? If you say an experience is good, it's good for who? Or it's good for what?
No,
And it's
no.
automatically good for that center, that interpreter.
No, I think when you have an experience that is pleasant and you have another experience that is pleasant, the common factor of the two experiences is the pleasantness, isn't it?
Yes, go on.
So if you have several experiences that are pleasant, then the common factor of all those is the pleasure. So that is the center.
That's all. Got it?
I mean, I don't see why, how
Wait,
pleasure-
listen to it first. Listen to it before you agree or disagree or saying I don't understand. Find out.
I find pleasure in gardening and I find pleasure in driving a car. Now the only two things that can be in common with those two things is the pleasure which I get out of it.
So the center, he says, is the pleasure.
It's the general concept.
No, pleasure, not general concept.
Well, yes, I mean, but that's what I mean. The general concept of pleasure, not
Look,
It's not even theoretical, this center, because there is a pleasure center in the brain. So you can accumulate many things and make this pleasure center very strong.
I understand. Even don't call it even center. Let's move away from the center. Which is, look, there is, I'll repeat it again. Yesterday there was an incident which has been registered and they have named it as pleasure. Right? See it, not intellectually, but actually see it. Then, that day after day, there is that pleasure, right? The layer after layer of pleasure, right? And the layer of fear. These layers, one after the other, what happens then? Huh? Your consciousness is filled with these layers, right? Avoid the center. Avoid the me. Your consciousness is filled with the layer after layer of pleasure, fear, pain, sorrow, layer after layer.
But what does that mean?
Huh?
But what does that mean? Avoiding registration? Or
No,
avoiding
you have registered.
naming
You have
registration?
registered. Look, snake has bitten me. It's bitten. There is registration of pain. And so there are different forms of pain, which is he has hurt me. He is hurt. So the brain is registered.
Yeah.
So there is registration, layer after layer after layer of pleasure, layer after layer of fear, or some, layer after layer of incidents, which is our consciousness, right? Right? No, don't agree with me. See it. Right? So, all this consciousness, layer after layer after layer, we call the center or the me. Right? You may call it X. And if we understand that we mean the same thing, I'll accept X instead of me. or the center. Clear? But we must both recognize the thing by common word. You can't call this a giraffe. We know by common word that's a microphone. So we say the accumulation of these layers, which are formed through registration, is our consciousness is filled with that. Right? For convenience, we say a center or the mean. So the common factor for all humanity is the layers. Right? So we're asking, consciousness is strengthened, the center or the me is strengthened by constant accumulation of these layers. Right? Is that all right? Is that clear now? Huh?
Is it registration actually that we're talking about as forming me, or something that happens after registration?
After, obviously. Not the me doesn't exist before the registration.
Sir, is it the impetus of the layers that are already in existence, the impetus?
What's that?
The impetus of the layers which have already been built up, take one on, as it were, to capture the registration, each registration.
I can't hear, sorry.
So is it the impetus of the registration?
No.
No, is it the impetus
Well,
of the layers?
if you have heard it, please repeat it.
He says the impetus.
Louder.
The impetus of the layers of consciousness is that what forms the registration?
What?
Yeah, the impetus of the layers of registration, right? Captures the next registration.
The brain is like a tape. On that there's constant registration going on. Right? And this constant registration of pleasure, pain, fear, suffering, anxiety, and so on, is our consciousness. And we say, using such a big word as consciousness with all the implications of it, we say the center or the me. Right? I think that's clear now. Is that right, sir? Would you?
I think he asked whether all of this, which now has been accumulated, it becomes the impetus for the next step.
Of course, that's. It's very clear, the pleasure principle has been registered. And the impulse, the energy for more thickening layer is the impetus in all our consciousness. No? This is right? No? Not clear?
I think when say, why should there be an impetus? You see, that would be the next
that-
question.
You understand? She doesn't understand.
What's an impetus?
Impetus, he wants to know what the
It's
word
an
means.
impulse to move something. You see, you have an impulse to do something.
I have an impulse to go out. There's an urge to go out. That's called impetus, the move forward. So, doctor says, what is the cause of this impetus, this urge to go? What is it? It's so simple if you are.
But the more concentrated the pleasure center is, the more the urge to expand it becomes.
Of course, it's that simple. Isn't it?
Yeah, so it follows.
Look, Shankar, look at it. The pleasure principle has been established through constant registration of that incident, of happy incident. Then thought arises and pursues it. Right? The impulse is to have more, more, more. Or the impulse is to avoid, run away, frighten, grief, anxiety. All these are the urges, the impetus, the energy to either get rid or have more. That's our consciousness. From there you act. Right, sir? So, we are asking something which is perhaps much more, requires much greater observation, greater penetration, greater insight, which is one sees the necessity of registering, right? How to ride a bicycle, speak a foreign language or your own language, or drive a car, and so on. That is registered on, isn't it? Then why should any other form of registration take place at all? The principle of pleasure being pursued.
But where does this principle arise? Because it's very easy to see that when physically if I'm hurt by a thorn or something,
Yes.
then naturally I avoid. There is the pain, and then
Same principle applies. Look, there's a ditch. If you walk along there, if you walk too fast and not observe, you might trip and fall down. So that is registered. Be careful when you walk in their spirit, right? So I'm asking, that's perfectly right, necessary. Why should there be any other form of registration? Wait, let me make it much simpler. Yesterday there was a pleasant happening. Why should the brain register that? It's happened, it's finished. Why should it accumulate the layers? It's very interesting, go into it with it. Why should it?
Krishnaji, we've got a habit of doing that. That's
What?
The trouble is we have a habit of accumulation.
Is it habit? Is it habit? Or is it the instinct of self-preservation, biological, physical preservation, which has trickled over into psychological preservation? You follow what I'm saying?
yeah, but
Listen, I'm just asking a question, boy. There is a spot there which I have to be very careful when I walk. Careful, not very, but careful. That has to be registered, hasn't it? Otherwise, when I walk carelessly, I might twist my ankle. So that has been registered. That's self-preservation, to avoid pain, to avoid unnecessary trouble for others, and so on, so on, so on, right? That has to be registered. The animals do register. Every day I've taken whisper out for a walk, it has been registered. And also in the animal, there is the fear of not obeying, might get slapped. So all those are registered. And we human beings do the same thing, but that habit, that registration, we think is necessary psychologically. It may have trickled over into the psyche. You know, it may have moved from the physical to the psychological. And then we say, yes, I must register. Why, next question is, why is there registration at all? Apart from, why is there? Why does the brain demand registration? Why is the brain has become like a tape? That's good. Huh? Tell me, why? Investigate, find out.
So the moment you start labeling registration as, good and bad, or pleasure giving and painful, then you start using the brain to
No, not you. The brain is doing this.
Okay, the brain begins to try and reproduce these.
Why? We are saying, why does the brain... No, Shankar, don't give it up. Go into it. You will see it so simply. Why is the brain registering? It sees logically, sanely, that it is, certain things have to be registered. Why has that movement of registration spilled over into the psyche?
What is psyche?
What?
What is psyche?
What?
What is psyche?
Into the psychological world, into the world of... Oh.
But isn't that the same?
No, don't theorize.
No, I didn't theorize, really. Isn't that the creation of a me or of a center?
No.
Isn't that psyche? Isn't that... I don't know how to put it.
Say it in German, somebody will translate and tell you. Mrs. Porter.
Would be difficult as well.
No, first see what we are asking. The brain registers certain things, right? Which are necessary. It says, I must learn how to drive a car. It's necessary, so it registers. The brain is operating all the time. There is no I operating. The brain is operating. Then thought comes, says, I won't go into that. The brain is operating. Says that certain things have for survival. Has that instinct for survival physically moved over into the field which is inside? The psyche, the psychological field, the hidden instincts.
What is not clear to me is you're talking about psyche as if it is something that
It's different.
that exists.
Huh?
That is something that exists different from
Isn't it?
registration.
Wait, isn't it? No, wait, I see what you're asking. You are saying, why do you divide the psyche, the inside, from the outside? Is that it? Why have you divided? Find out.
No, you have
No, find out, don't pile up words. Why have you divided the outer and the inner? Goodness, how difficult it is to keep you to fact, not to theorize, not jump to words, not jump to conclusions.
But that's what our training.
Huh?
That's what our training is. In class and such, we have to theorize.
I am asking you now, please don't. Go into it.
Well, I register things into my psyche because I want to do it.
No, don't use the word I for the moment.
Because
There is registration and the piling of registration, right? There's registration of how to drive a car. It becomes almost automatic after a while.
Yeah, but you're asking
We
why.
keep to that. I'm sticking to one thing, right? It has to be registered, right? Because if you want to drive, if there's car has to be driven, there must be learning of how to drive properly. Otherwise, if you get in the car and drive, you might kill yourself or kill others. So that learning, driving a car, is a kind of self-preservation, right? Right? Physical survival. Now, I'm asking, why that movement, which is physical survival, moved into the other field?
Is it because it thought it was so successful in one that it could repeat in the other?
That means what?
And that more safety, more...
So it says there's safety here in accumulation, and so it says there may be, and the maybe has become the certainty. Right? The certainty that by accumulating pleasure, layers, or avoiding layers, there can be survival. The brain, by registering that, that being driving a car for physical survival, has moved into a field where it is looking for survival. And the survival is the accumulation of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Right? I think this is clear. No? No, don't agree. Inside, see it for yourself.
Does the survival then change into continuance?
Survival. So it says there's survival in a belief, right? There's survival in ideas, there's survival in knowledge, as there is survival in the physical sense when driving a car. So, survival implies to the brain a continuity of what it has known. Right, sir? Right? Right? What it has known. Anything it doesn't know, it gets frightened. Death it doesn't know. Horror. So, follow this step by. So, registration for physical survival is necessary, and from that the brain may have got into the illusion that survival implies continuity of these layers. Avoidance of pain, fear, but the other.
So, but you see, when there's a tremendous amount of pressure, then there's a certain balance in the psyche is upset.
So, follow it. So what happens? When there is the pressure of pursuing pleasure or avoiding pain, the pressure of it, there is the formation, what's the word?
Deformation.
Deformation. There's deformation, isn't there? Do you see this? Huh?
I think you're saying now that that when you have such intense pressure, the brain is in some sense twisted or damaged physically. Is that?
That's it. They haven't heard it. Please, louder.
Well, that when the brain is under great pressure, then there is actual physical damage or twisting or bending so that it's no longer right. It's unhealthy.
Look, if the brain is under pressure of tremendous authority, the totalitarian mind is already damaged mind. Because its instinct is to move, break, open. But you have now said, no, you must obey. Right? The Catholics, all the rest of it, the totalitarian people say, obey, obey. So it's under pressure all the time. So when there is pressure, there is deformation. There is damage, there is, right? So when the brain is damaged, deformed, your actions are deformed.
Our brains are under pressure from other layers.
Of course it is.
Pleasure.
That's why you're all in conflict.
So Dr. Bohm said that the brain is actually physically deformed.
Obviously.
So is
It's
it
like, he said at lunch yesterday, he said, a plastic, press it very hard and push it, it remains that way. You know, but a thing that has got life, living, you can bend it, come back to originality.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
This, huh?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, Lordy.
I didn't hear what you said, Krishnaji.
So anything that has got, that is free, that has no pressure, can be bent. But it comes back to its original state. Right? But a brain that under tremendous pressure, like accumulating all the rest of it, it is obviously under pressure. Therefore, that pressure brings about distortion, brings about damage. And the brain that is damaged cannot return to its original pliability.
But aren't we also saying though, we're implying just by the fact that we're talking here that if we remove that pressure, if we stop registering, then our mind will go back to its original form.
No, register only that which is necessary.
Right.
Then what happens? This is really quite, what happens to a brain, this is very interesting, what happens to a brain when there is no pressure of any kind?
It's free.
Huh?
It's free.
No, what takes place?
So, but that's at this stage it's a bit hypothetical, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So
No, but I'm going to. What takes place to a no? This is very interesting. Not hypothetical, not guesswork, not theory. What actually happens when you see, for purely physical survival, you have learned about driving a car. That's right? Do you see that? See in the sense not verbally or visually, but actually have observed this fact Of course, they simple. Right? Now, can you also in the same way observe the danger of the accumulation of layers and therefore pressure, therefore distortion, damage, deformed, and all action taking place from this deformity, from this distortion. If you see that completely, in the sense, not intellectual, but actual, see the danger of it. The very seeing of the danger, the brain will act. The brain says, I see the danger, therefore I won't accumulate. The brain itself says, no.
Maybe it's already damaged.
And fine, no. If the next question, wait. See, it's frightfully interesting to go into it all. I'm sorry, I'm excited a little bit. I want to go on. For physical survival, driving a car is necessary if you want to drive a car, cycle. Even for walking, you have to be very careful when traffic going by. So the brain says, right, I agree that. I see the necessity. And if the brain sees the danger, the actual danger for survival, that this accumulation of layers is distorting the brain, deforming it, and damaging it, it says, I won't do it, naturally.
Isn't there the danger of that it becomes another focus of pleasure?
No. It says, I said very carefully, any accumulation, right? Any accumulation. If it says, I won't accumulate now, but because the other way I might have more pleasure, then it pursues that pleasure. Then that becomes deformity. You follow? So it says, so do you see the infinite danger of accumulation? Of these layers. So, wait, that's very interesting. Can the brain, please listen, can the brain be aware of itself? The brain in the sense, its movement being the accumulation of layers. Thinking or caught in the illusion that that way it'll survive better. You follow? Can that move, can the brain be aware of that movement?
Does the body have to be still for the brain? Does the body have to be still for
No,
the brain
forget
to
the body.
see this?
Forget the body. You are sitting there.
But can I see it when I'm working?
No,
in
don't
motion?
work. No, just sit. No, listen to what I'm saying first. I'm asking, can the brain, your brain, see the movement of accumulation of layers, right? Can it be aware of that movement? Or are you imposing another desire upon it, which is a distortion? I wonder if... listen, have you got it?
No, because the brain is, as we've said, it's under pressure and therefore distorted already. So
I'm
can
coming
a
to
distorted brain see...
I'm coming to that. Can you see the distortion? Can the brain feel the distortion? Can the brain feel the pressure? Can the brain feel the layer, one layer of itself? Layer in the sense, the accumulation of pleasure, the avoidance of pain. These two factors, these two principles. Avoidance of pain with all its complications, and the accumulating the layers of pleasure. Can the brain see this movement? Of course it can. The body hasn't got to be still, you can see it. You can walk. When you're walking, you can watch it. But you know, there's a rather nice story of a guru with his disciples. And he had a pet cat. The guru had a very lovely, beautiful cat, and it was a favorite. So before he sat down to meditate with all his disciples, the cat used to come and sit on his lap. It was nice and warm, and began to purr. So the guru one day dies, and so they bury him and all or whatever they do with the gurus. And they said, to meditate, you must have that cat in the room sitting on somebody's lap. You understand? Do you see this? So don't say, my body must be still, or this, or that. Just watch it.
These two legs brings security.
We said there is physical security when you have to drive a car. If you don't know how to drive a car and have to drive a car, it's necessary to drive a car, then you have to learn how to drive it, because if you didn't learn and just drove off, you'll kill yourself or kill others. Therefore, for physical survival, it is necessary to learn how to drive. That physical survival is one of the factors of the brain, because it says, if I get killed, I'm finished. Right? So it may say the same thing. It may say the accumulation of the layers of pleasure. In that, brain says there may be security. This is, we've gone into, right? So why does the brain register at all? There it registers in driving a car because it's physical survival, right? So does it say there must be registration of pleasure, fear, grief, sorrow, hurt? Will all these give a survival? Huh? Go on, answer it. Apparently it doesn't, does it? Because we are constantly in battle, constantly under pressure. No? So we're asking a further question. A brain that is distorted, that is deformed, that is damaged by this constant universal conditioning. Right? Can the past conditioning, which is the accumulate, dispense with? Can all those layers vanish, wither away? It will completely, please listen, it will completely when there is the perception that in all these accumulations there is no survival at all. There is no security at all. If the brain sees this, it will naturally drop all of it. The factor is what will make it see.
I think that comes to this self-deception which people talk about. This distorted brain deceives itself and does not want to see.
Yeah, the brain may want to deceive itself, therefore it wants. Why does it support all this?
See, sir, you just saw that that the psychological pressure can create a physical deformity. So, meaning that the physical pressure, the way we deal with physical...
Of course, can deform the other.
Yeah.
So it operates both ways. So, your brain is damaged. I know you don't like to think about it. All our brains are damaged, distorted, deformed, because we live under pressure, ambition, competition, imitation, conformity, follow the ideal, believe. All these are tremendous pressure by human beings, and we have supplied this beliefs and all the rest of it. So we are this. The brain has been caught in an illusion, and so has damaged itself. And the question is it possible for the brain, which is damaged, distorted, deformed, be free of all that? We say it will, it can, it must, when it sees the danger of it. And it won't see it because it says, this is my habit, it's my condition, it's my, I don't know the other, therefore I must stick to this. You understand? The known is more welcome than the unknown. Huh? Do you see that? Do you? The brain that is damaged says, I only know a damage, myself as damaged. I don't know what it is to be completely healthy. Tell me, no, listen to what the brain does. Tell me what that perfect health is, then I will follow it. You understand? Then I will believe it. Then I will work for it, which is under another pressure. You understand? So we are saying, see the danger of pressure. Let the brain see itself under pressure, see all the implications of living under pressure. And when it realizes the danger of it, now, what will make you realize the danger? Hitting you on the head? Inquire into it. Hitting you on the head? They have tried that. You may laugh, they have tried it. Beat you up so as to realize what you are, what is happening, which is a form of Zen meditation. They don't actually hit on the head, they may, but beat you. If you're slightly, when you're meditating rather sleepy, they come and bang you on with a stick. So what will make you realize the immense danger of it? Come on.
Would experience?
See what happens.
I know,
Moment
I
you have
put that
used,
word
no,
tentatively.
listen carefully. The moment you have used the word experience, that means you have registered it.
Yes, I know.
Therefore, another form of pressure. Oh, for God's sake. If you see this, you don't. Therefore, you will never use the word experience again.
No, but if the brain goes through experience and then realizes how distorting it is.
It is, look, we've said it all the morning for an hour and a
Yes, I know. My question is, does the brain have to experience distortion
No,
to see?
watch it. The brain itself, how should we say this, or can, so wait a minute, make it very simple. You think, don't you? Can thought be aware of itself? How it arises? It arises from registration. For the moment, we'll stick to that. Registered, an incident which was pleasurable, thought then says, from that registration, thought comes and pursues it, right? Now, can you observe? Can thought see itself in this movement? Not say, I see. You understand my question? Will you? Can your thought, can thought be aware of itself? Shankar, answer my question. Don't go off to something else. Answer my question. You can't because you have never even thought about it. So, whereof can the brain be aware of its movement of accumulation? So we are asking, what will make you see, observe, and be aware of the movement of accumulation, which is a tremendous danger for its own survival, happy survival? What will make you see? Gurus? Huh? Gurus will tell you, do this, 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 and you'll have. So gurus out. Out means completely out, right? That means no authority. Yours or mine. Or my experience and knowledge, and says, I know, which is blah. So no authority. Then, if gurus won't do, will more suffering? Follow this, more suffering, more pain, more fears, more uncertainty, more confusion. Will all that help you? Huh? Huh? So, all right, gurus won't, more experience won't, experience more pain, more sorrow, more violence, more, right? None of this. Then what will help you? What will help the brain to see the danger of its accumulation, in which it has said there is security. And verbally says, I see this. Logically I see it, but actually it hasn't. So what will do it? Sitting quietly, closing your eyes and going to kind of woolly dreams? Come on. All right. They have tried beating up people. They have said there's a certain sect of people in India, Tantra, which says sex will help you, worship God will help you. They have tried everything through pressure. You understand? Through more pressure. This is a fact, historical fact. So what will you do? Go on. Sure. Capture the beauty and the weight of it.
We can't do anything about it through.
But wait, stop. You've said something. By adding more, you're going to distort it. You said, I, the center, follow this. The me, the accumulation can't do anything. Right? Wait, is that a fact for you? No, be careful. Don't use words unless it is an actual, real thing. Is that a fact to you? That the movement, listen carefully, the movement, rather, the brain cannot be aware of itself under any pressure, therefore, from outside, right? Right? Or stimulated pressure. You understand? Outward pressure or inward determination, will, and all the rest of it. Do you see that? Inward pressure or outward pressure will not bring about the ending of accumulation, which is a danger. Do you see that? Actually, with your heart, with your blood, with your eyes, with your nerves, everything that you have seen, by Jove, I see this. Nothing from outside or inside will alter the damage, the accumulation. So what happens? Oh, come on. Then what happens? Do you see, by hearing logically, you see, logically, reasonably, thought says, yes, you're perfectly right. From outside pressure, I can't do, there is no ending of the damage, or thought saying, if I determine, if I say I must not, all that is also a pressure, then what happens? Actually see what happens. Huh? What happens when you have no pressure from outside or inside? The damage is over. The distortion is finished. Right? No, it is of course. Now, what will make you see this? More words, more action, more determination, more kicking, more violence, more wars.
So, it seems to me that the most strong pressure is seeking pleasure. And seeking pleasure is the most strong pressure.
Seeking pleasure.
So,
can the brain, listen carefully, can the brain, your brain, see the accumulation of pleasure? One accumulation is enough. Because when once you accumulate one, the movement of more comes in. Can you see, can the brain see the one registration of pleasure and the danger of it? It's very difficult for young people because, etc. I don't have to go into that. Sexual pleasure. Talking to people or comparing yourself with somebody who's more beautiful, or it's a vanity. All is vanity, said this preacher. So if there is no pressure of any kind, the brain comes back to its original purity, original springiness. You can bend it, push it, but it'll always come back. Because it sees the tremendous futility of accumulation. I haven't finished this. You can't. Somebody who's died, by listening to you, you'll become a theory and say, how can I get it? You're back into the old game. But for a man who is investigating, going into it, not under any pressure, not because he says, I want to find more, then that becomes another layer. But just observing, then what happens to the brain that's completely free from all pressure? Which means from all the wasted energy of pressure. You understand? Because the moment you register, energy is needed. Right? What happens to the brain that is not registering and therefore accumulate that energy? What happens to that? I won't go in. This is. You see, no, I mustn't go into it because man has tried to find the super energy. He knows the mechanical energy, friction, mechanical energy of friction, he knows very well. And that gets rather tiresome. He sees that habit, mechanical friction. He sees all that. He says, and so he has sought this extraordinary energy which has no pressure. He says, I'll get it through meditation. I'll get it through various forms of awakening certain centers, and so on, so on, so on. They're all under pressure of a reward, or under the pressure of avoiding. So if you have no pressure, what happens to that extraordinary energy which has been wasted through registration? You will not find that unless you see the total danger of registration. Right? I don't know if you heard that story. If some of you have heard in the past, please forgive me. The story of a guru who was a fairly decent man. Every morning he was in the habit of talking to his disciples, making a sermon. One morning he gets on the rostrum, and just about to begin, when a bird comes and sits on the windowsill and begins to sing beautifully. And the singing is so marvelous, they listen. And after singing, the bird flies away. And so the Guru says, for this morning, the sermon is over. Huh? Isn't that nice? Right.